Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Before we even start this repatriation and reintegration process, we've already failed or are we doomed to fail?
You've got to invest in the institutions that you've established to carry out those sorts of core functions.
We now get into the regional updates to give you an understanding of what's happening across our neighboring islands.
We have available a number of films that are worth showing.
So it was day one when the French Revolution started to develop the concept of universal human rights.
What happened this time is unprecedented. It's one of the largest terrorist attacks in history.
Let's welcome Carl to the program. Carl is over there next in stuff. Hello, Carl.
Silky anteater or pygmy anteater, and we have two of the three species of anteaters right here.
WESN.
Hello, Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, and welcome to Breakthrough. As per usual, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Morning. Very tired this morning. Not entirely sure why, because I went to bed early.
Oh, wow.
Very rare for me on a Sunday to be able to go to bed early, but there were no NFL games, so, it was a lot easier for me to just decompress and go to sleep, whereas around that time for the last several weeks, there's been a game halfway finished, and I'm like, I must watch it.
Absolutely.
And so it's kind of strange when I woke up this morning and my body felt even more lethargic with more sleep. It's just one of those things. Believe it or not, I had an interesting dream last night.
Okay.
I was at an establishment, and you and a group of yours were the entertainment, and the DJ kind of ran you all off the stage by rudely playing some other music.
Wow.
And I was so incensed. I was like hounding the owner, like, that's so unprofessional. And I was quarreling. And then the dream took a whole different, when dreams kind of then take left turns, right?
Of course.
So like for that segment, right, I felt so bad, and I was like, I was legitimately like pissed off at this person in the dream. And I'm like, you don't understand how to run an establishment. And
wow.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a movie.
Wow. Okay. That would make sense for you because you are a movie junkie. I consider you a movie junkie, so it would make sense.
There's no movie equivalent. You know what I mean? There's no movie equivalent that comes to mind. It was, and the thing is,
I'm sure there's a combination of storylines that just happened.
I'm like, why did this come up? It's not like I thought, oh, wouldn't that be a shame if they're singing at a bar or a restaurant or something like that? Like there's no association or conscious thought or whatever, or that would make me think, hey, what if this happened? Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
I know.
So it is what it is.
That's new. That's a trend. You may have to watch out.
And it literally was just last night. I was like, I need to mention this to Mark, and I almost forgot, but fortunately I remembered.
Fortunately, you remembered. Well, look. Just monitor that. Let's see if the stories unfold even more.
My dreams tend to not work that way.
I'm so weak.
My dreams tend to be one and
You
done.
don't have sequels?
No.
I do.
You do?
Yeah, they're not very close together though.
Especially
they
dreams.
happen like very far
Especially
apart.
dreams. Like, yes, obviously I might have dreams about a general topic. Like when I used to, when I was living in Tobago, around Easter time, in my memory, maybe I'm wrong, that's when the waves will get rougher, right? So I'll be sleeping on the boat. And of course, when you're sleeping, sometimes you don't most of the time you don't realize you're sleeping, right?
Right.
And essentially some version of being on a boat
Okay.
in rough water,
Right.
and then eventually capsizing
Okay.
while I'm on a boat
Okay.
in rough water. So waking up in that moment is not necessarily the most comfortable thing in the world, right? And that has happened like at least more than once in different years.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I see. Well, I mean, well,
But that would be a reoccurring dream. That would be a sequel
okay.
dream.
That is true. That is true. Well, maybe you need some more sleep, which is something that I am getting. Even though last week you said I look more tired than ever.
Well, I mean, the way how he was moving, folks, I don't know if on camera.
I watched back the episode. I was like, I look high. My eyes are like this tiny. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you're not that Chinese.
You're
not Chinese. You're not for them eyes.
Oh
Just
my
saying.
gosh. But I'm getting more sleep now. And maybe it is due to the fact that, have you ever heard this term, micro-retiring?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Right?
So-
but the elements of it,
Right.
because you have introduced me to the term,
Right.
is not foreign to me.
Okay. So yes, so apparently there's this new trend that's happening according to a contributor in Forbes magazine. There's this new trend of micro-retirement, which is a trend rising among Gen Z. For those who don't know Gen Z, they're considered anyone born from 1997 thereafter. There's also Gen Alpha, they're born somewhere in the 2000s, but we're not talking about them. Where they are basically taking time and sort of living life as if they are retired and sort of taking breaks for varying purposes, but most of all, it mostly seems to be for mental and emotional well-being purposes. So they're not doing the hustling all throughout their lives. They're not doing the working the 8 to 4 on top of whatever second job they may be having, all that sort of thing. And it's interesting that is happening. And the reason I kind of brought this topic is because I feel like I'm in that state right now. Like I said last week, I did not just the job, but I did let go of some responsibilities that I had last year.
Right.
Heading into this year. And I do feel like sometimes we get caught in this. I used to say, especially to young musicians, I used to say, try everything.
Yeah.
Try as much as possible. Now I'm adjusting that phrase. Try everything within reason.
So ironically, and the choir where we met is a religious choir, and I remember, and we didn't necessarily go in a debate on this, but I think one of the things that I picked up when I was young is not everything you think you're called to do, you should do. But then the competing philosophy with that, because if it's on a spiritual tangent, is, well, no, I mean, would God put something in front of you that you're not prepared for? Right. And I think all too often, that willingness to do everything will get you into trouble, right?
Yes.
No matter how well-meaning you think it is, no matter how much you think it is necessary for you to surrender yourself to whatever calling or whatever vocation or whatever career path or whatever dream, right? Because I guess in some cases, people will equate a spiritual calling to a personal dream, right?
Yeah.
Now, with a dream, in theory, at the very least, if you want to say, I'm going to work really hard for a limited period of time,
Right.
fine. And then depending now, at some point you get a certain amount of success, so you ride that wave. Okay, we're touring now, we'll ride that wave to tour, because at some point the touring for this album is going to end, and then we'll have to come back around.
Yeah.
Some successful artists take breaks in between. Right? Some successful actors and actresses. And what's funny is, in the arts, there are actually certain, if you're really dedicated and true to your craft, whether you're an actor or a singer, when you come back, your fan base will still be there. And it's almost like, instead of trying to take everything that comes your way, and you dilute your presence, and you dilute your brand, and you dilute your work, right? Instead of taking everything that comes your way, because look at some actors, they get success in stages,
Yeah.
right? oh gosh, the Asian guy that won the Oscar. He played, he was Harrison Ford's co-star in Indiana Jones.
Right, yeah.
Right? And then he won the Oscars as a much older adult.
Right.
Right? He's still worked in the industry, and now he has a movie coming out which looks very interesting, and he looks perfect for the role. It's like an action comedy, right?
Okay.
Brendan Fraser, out of Hollywood's eye for a long time, came back, got an Oscar. Now, I'm not sure if he's getting roles, but my point is, you know, I think Meryl Streep at a time may have had a dip in her career and then came back with great resurgence.
Right.
And there are other actors like that. Nicolas Cage at times seems like he's overworked his career, but then he still has his moments. So if that could happen, even when people are trying to keep staying out in the public eye, why not purposefully take the breaks, to purposefully recharge, to purposefully, because then now you have a chance to come back fresher, to let trends move on, and you're not just trying to chase the trends, or you could even wait for inspiration to have like a whole new idea, or in some cases you're like some of those rock bands in the 80s where, all right, yeah, you weren't too relevant in the 90s or early 2000s, but to some extent you're still relevant, so you could pop out every now and then. When the Police did a reunion, I'm pretty sure that tour smashed, right? Smashed, but it's not like they were an entity. They were defunct for decades.
On that, as you said that, there are things that you notice where it's like there are people who fall off the face of the earth due to an external reason. So maybe they people think they kind of got stale, or they were trying too many trends to keep up.
Yes.
And so then you sort of left with a sour taste in people's mouths.
Yes.
In a way. But when you actually take a purposeful rest, you have people wondering, where did they go? And then when they do come back, it's like, oh, it's the same quality of work that is happening. And so I still love you for the work that you do, right? As opposed to, oh, remember when he or she fumbled on the stage, or this song was really, really bad, or whatever. Take into consideration, there are some artists who fumbled because people found out that they were lip syncing, right?
Yes,
Live? And that was then. And the fact that even now, it's no longer a big deal now, but the thing is, it's very difficult for them to come back because of how people felt then, and they still carry that emotion now.
I mean, lip syncing is just one of those things where if you do it, for lack of a better way to put it, correctly, you'll get away with it. And people won't be, like, you can't lip sync ad libs. You can't lip sync the high points. And I think the alternative to lip syncing, which I think a lot of Western singers do, at least the ones who I think are really smart, especially depending on what type of format you're in. So let's just say a Super Bowl performance and you're a singer. You'll have backup singers driving the melody and supporting the melody line, right? And ironically, rappers do double tracks all the time, right? I don't know why. I really don't understand why they need to have a track to rap along with of themselves, but it is what it is. Right? But then, like, when you get into the more choreographed stuff, so K-pop choreography has gotten more and more intense. So they are leaning on more and more lip syncing. And one of the things that, ironically, a lot of fans look at, okay, we know you're going to do some lip syncing during the main performance, but then they have this phenomenon where they do award show. Well, they do weekly shows, right? Where it's like a little mini competition of popularity amongst the actual mainstream K-pop artists on the show, right? So when you win, you'll get an encore where you sing your song again. But this time you won't have all of the dancing or whatever. You just have mics, and you're just kind of singing the encore, and it's gonna be raw. So one of the things that K-pop fans have started to comment on is stability, vocal stability, because it's like after you did all that dancing and and your bun, right? Come back now, do an encore, right? Because it's a skill in that genre of music when you finish to not look tired and exhausted. You need to still look like pretty, like a fairy, right? So now it's like, now do full out singing. And their fans kind of like they're in this happy medium of, we understand it's going to be lip syncing, but we're going to look out for things that will still express skill.
So as you said that, so I'm having a concert very soon, and I'll get to the details of that at some point in time. But it's live singing, and we're going to do a little bit. Usually when we do the choreography, we do the music video, and then we just stand and sing. So this time we're blending the two of doing choreography and live singing.
Yes.
And our vocal coach, who we've had him on the show, Eric,
yes.
said to our choreographers,
yes,
love that, but just make sure the singer's not heaving behind the mic at the end of the day. And we were like, okay.
So, I'll say this, the level of choreography a choir locally will do would not be something like what a K-pop group with a professional hip-hop choreography will do. So it's doable. It's just, to some extent, how accustomed you are to do it.
Exactly.
One of my few talents in vocals is my lung capacity.
Yes.
Right? So because of that, I mean, obviously, if you have some world-class opera singer, he's probably going to have much better breath control than me.
Right.
But compared to the average amateur singer in the country, I have much more capacity as well as the ability to like hold on to and not panic.
Right.
Right.
And for some, even on that, just sort of veering away from the topic, but on that note, like if you're a singer that dances,
yes,
then the journeys are going to be a little bit more difficult for you as opposed to if you're a dancer that sings, because your body is used to your body has the endurance.
Yes or no, because a singer that dances would be better aware of how to breathe while singing.
Okay.
Right? So, because the goal would also be to sing properly. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
Well, but remember, you're using the body.
I
So
know,
the
I know.
dancer is more engaged with the body a little bit more.
Right. Again, if it's high-end choreography, yes.
Right.
But I feel that part of it is, yes, the dancer is used to their body, but they're not necessarily used to singing on top of that.
True.
And singing, it's not about having the energy with regards to your body. Well, part of it is energy.
Right.
Right? But I think a lot of it, too, is also just having the discipline of consciously knowing when to breathe, knowing how to breathe, knowing how to hold your breath and sustain the breath while controlling
True, okay.
the exhalation of breath in order to sing.
Fair.
Right?
Fair.
And even singers outside of the professional ranks, and even some professionals, because they're not necessarily all trained, don't have that altogether. So I
think I'm just going based off of my personal experience, because I see dancers having better dancers who sing having better breath control while dancing than singers who dance.
But potentially, but then how many of them have some singing experience?
A pretty good amount to the fact that they can sound good and the fact that they could execute it.
But that's my point. So then, are there really dancers who are singing, or dancers who are also singers?
Oh, so yes, but I mean, like in terms of what they spend their most time with.
Yeah,
that's what I was.
Yeah, but I mean, once you do both in any capacity, I don't think you really count in that equation, because Eric is speaking about, in some of their cases, singers who don't dance and have never danced before.
True.
Right?
Okay.
Whereas with the experience of some of your members, which is almost the same as mine, I don't think it would be in the same category, because there's a degree of being accustomed to doing both.
Fair.
So,
I guess. But there was something that you mentioned earlier, where you mentioned the actors, a lot of them did things and then they took the rest and then they came back.
Or in some cases they were forced to, because the trend of the market and the business executives, whether in music, television, or movies, they don't care about originality. That's high risk. Low risk is, oh, what, a police show? Let's do a police show. Oh, what, a boy band? Let's do a boy band. Oh, what, we're going to do a movie about boxing? This studio has a movie about boxing? We'll do a movie about boxing. That's why Armageddon and Deep Impact came out at the same time.
Oh, wow. Okay, right? I didn't know that. All right, no problem. But, and then you have the remakes. What is it a remake they call it? Then you have the remakes that...
Yes, all of the remakes and all of the sequels now.
Some of them work.
Listen, when...
Some don't.
Jaws had 4 movies when I was 4. That was against the grain.
Right.
You know, The Godfather Part 2, just to name it Part 2. You didn't do that, right? Technically, Star Wars, the second Star Wars movie, was not named Part 2, right? Back to the Future Part 2. This was, we take it for granted now. This was new territory, so much so that we don't actually get Part 2 as a label anymore, funny enough, right? So that's
You
why.
get the title, and then there's a new subtitle.
I mean, think
or
about
something
it.
like that.
Comic book movies, they're still trying to, everything is all about setting up this series of movies we could milk for money because somebody did it once very well
Yeah.
and they don't necessarily understand why they did it. So,
But the interesting is, on the topic of coming back,
yes.
while the Gen Zs and millennials, I'll include us as well, while the Gen Z and millennials are taking these micro-retirements, there's also the trend, and I think it has happened for a while, of baby boomers, those who are like in their 60s, those who have basically retired,
Yeah.
coming back to the workforce due to, obviously, the change in the economy, different medical things, health reasons, so that they need that sort of income because the NIS is not always good, not always
Well,
enough,
locally-
the pension is not always enough.
Locally, I would argue a lot of professionals worked beyond 60,
Yes.
right? Just as a matter of course, before this article came out, right? And then in the arts locally, especially, how many people in the arts
For sure.
ever had anything close to retirement? They just kept doing whatever it was they were doing until they couldn't do it anymore. Look at all the Calypsonians.
They probably just lessened the amount of responsibilities they had.
Well, in some cases,
some
yes and no.
cases.
I mean, I guess Calypso Rose has less than responsibilities. At the same time, every now and then she shows up for public appearance, right?
Right.
Whether it's paid or not is besides the point. The point is she's still coming as
And
public
even
appearances.
when David Redder announced that he was doing his last concert, it was so amazing. When I went to Etienne Charles' concert last year, all of a sudden David Redder appeared on the stage.
Yeah.
So this was after he made that announcement.
Yeah.
And we were like, he came, he sang, he casually walked on stage.
Wait.
He sang and he casually walked on.
This song's like, that's almost like a professional wrestling storyline. Well, he did have his last concert. He
But
didn't
that was his
necessarily
last
mean
performance.
He wasn't going to, he wasn't going to guest star somewhere for a little one-off, right?
And then everybody was on their feet at that point. But it's just the way, and coming back to that, and coming back to the quality of work that you do.
Yeah.
Taking David Redder into consideration, when you have that level of quality, and he's a great like his performance is fantastic. When you have something like that, and you're so great and you're so revered and people appreciate your work so much that you can appear out of nowhere after having announced my last concert, and you're walking on the stage.
Well, it even makes it bigger, to be honest.
Exactly. And then but it's the way he just casually strolled onto the stage.
Yeah.
He waved, everybody lost their minds. He sang, everybody lost their minds. He casually walked, or he strolled as easily as he came off the stage.
Don't get it twisted.
And it was so great.
He's one of the local Calypsonians where you could tell has singing technique.
Yes.
Because to reach that age, to still be able to perform, I assume at a high level, I wasn't there at the concert. Knowing his voice as I know it, you could kind of hear the difference in quality compared to some local carnival performance. Let's put it that way, right?
Yes.
But back to this idea of micro-retirement and young people taking time off, I'm not too sure how pertinent that is here, right? One of the things they point to is remote work allows for travel.
A little bit of more flexibility.
Right, and more flexibility.
Right.
And then depending with the remote work, it could be less hours, it could be less demanding. It might not pay as much as a 9 to 5,
Right.
but then again, that's when the remote work isn't 8 hours of work, right?
But then you have to consider, consider other things besides financials. Am I sitting in 2.5 hours plus of traffic? In and out.
One of the things that the internet has revealed to the world about remote work is travel social media stars, they do remote work.
Right.
And in one case, there's one channel called Caranate where they didn't do remote work. They travel off of their savings, but they actually created their own companies while working remotely.
Right.
So they traveled on their savings, then they started to get an income from YouTube. Then they reinvested into various businesses centered around that travel lifestyle.
Okay.
Right?
Which obviously would have built a business in
Right.
of its own.
That they operate remotely.
Right.
So there was one time when they got invited to some billionaire's island getaway, right? To preview it or whatever. And which every now and then they get the opportunity because these things are also rented to some extent, right? And they were able to take all of their staff. I didn't realize that like 20 people working on them or something like that, right?
Okay.
And these are people that started off on their savings, just flying and using miles on economy class to go wherever. Granted, young people, I am not recommending 1,000,001 of you try to do that as your career, because these are people who really were dedicated literally to a craft of travel, right?
Yes.
So, but the point is, they themselves also, like you could see it with people that live those alternative lifestyles, and it's similar to artists who work on commission, right? You could kind of dictate your
Certain
schedule,
things, yeah.
right? You could leave a month open, depending on what your job, right? Since they're YouTubers primarily, they could leave a month open.
Right.
They need to save to, you know, right? It's not like they're not entitled to money when...
Because it allows you to not work looking forward to the breaks. You're able to actually have the break. So like, for instance, people who work Monday to Friday, and their break is they're working to look forward to that. This is probably not you.
Oh, I look forward to the weekend. You see, before I used to work on the weekend, so it's like whenever I get a day off. Now it's like, oh, please, weekend come weekend.
Then you look forward to that. It's almost like you live to work.
Yes.
As opposed to just working as one of the things that you do.
Yes.
Yes, it does support you financially and those things, but maybe there's this rethinking, especially coming out of the pandemic, there's this rethinking of purpose and all of those things.
But you know also what I think it is, because I never had extended periods of times of working hard.
Okay.
I guess the closest would be now, but even then, responsibilities varied, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, even now in a given year, part of the year will be more hectic for me than other parts of the year, because my time on Face of Sports is going to naturally come to an end when the NFL season is over. So I don't have to do that.
Right.
You know, that would used to take up most of my Sundays, some other time in the rest of the week and so forth. But the point I was getting to is that I think also this might be looking at a trend of extending your work life, because you're not trying to work at 110% from 20 to 75. Maybe 85% from 20 to 75. Maybe with bits of extra effort in between, but then reduced effort from your baseline in between as well to compensate.
Do you think, and we're going to wrap up very soon, but I have a quick question for you. Do you think monotony has a role to play in it?
That's part of it, because some people are okay with monotony, because whatever the task is, or the job is, or the duty is,
they're okay
with it.
weekly.
Whether because of the social dynamics, I work in a job where I don't have to deal with people, or I work in a job where I get to meet new people, right? Or the tasks are varied enough, right?
So there may be variety in the work itself.
Sometimes. It all depends on the individual, right? For some people, they like to be teachers because the variety is in the fact that it's new students that they help to mold and grow, right? But technically, the subjects are the subjects, right? Yeah. To some extent, some of them will be like, I don't want you to change the syllabus again this year. Changed it enough last year, and the year before last year, and the year before last year. I spend more work trying to figure out how to teach your syllabus than actually teaching your syllabus.
I know.
Anyway, that's just a local... those who know. But like for myself, because I did not have that period of really working hard as a young person, like really tooth and nail, right? There were periods where maybe I worked a little harder than other times, right? But not to the extent that some young people have to hustle. There's a part of me that is both psychologically more linked to accept, but even financially, it's somewhat necessary. Like, I don't mind, and I might need to. And even if I didn't need to, I still might prefer to continue to work in some capacity as I got older. Right? Because part of it too is, and one of the things, the examples of this that I liked, obviously, yes, again, if you're a singer or you're a painter or you're a designer or whatever, you'll probably work until you work until however long you want to work, right? But did you ever see the Robert De Niro and Hathaway movie, The Intern?
Yes, I did.
So he was like some VP of sales or marketing or whatever. And he comes back as an intern. And here's the key. He was humble. He had all his skills. He used it when applicable and necessary. He wasn't pushy. And he was able to add a lot of value to her organization, right? And not as opposed to, I'm going to take this place over and have my second career, which some older people, like, they can't let go. No, he was able to let go. His time was gone. Now he is just there to... And he didn't need the check, right? And to some extent, I thought that was such a beautiful story, because there's a certain amount of realistic premises in it, where I could see where there will be some retirees who wouldn't mind being able to contribute. The key is the labor market is very one-dimensional. I know of somebody who was denied a job in fast food places that he applied for because he went to St. Mary's and he was overqualified even without having a university degree. And the thought is, well, they didn't want to hire him because at some point he'll take the job, as in whoever was the superior that hired him, right? And it's that sort of linear thinking, where this is what a career is, you know, and we only accept people with these things, and we close, and you have to retire this time, and there's no flexibility in thinking.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think, well, once we move with purpose, because I always thought purpose was what you did, but I think I'm opening up to the fact that purpose is really how you bring yourself to what you do, not necessarily being attached to these specific thing.
You see, it could be both.
It could be. It could
right?
be.
It all depends on where you find yourself.
But we will continue this discussion at some point, ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus, quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
We're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country, and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe in different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug.
You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot have a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man is being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI. Worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Welcome back to Breakthrough, ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago. That was just Liz performing her newest release, Zingue. Now, those of us who are familiar with folk music knows that this is a song that has been a while for some time, right? A French Creole folk song that is very much part of our history. So welcome to the Breakthrough table to talk more about it, Liz. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to have you here. Very good. And well, you're not new to you. We had you on this show, not this show, but we had you on Carnival last year.
Yeah.
Along with Shoisa Camilo and Sucre. So it's good to have you back.
Yes.
Welcome to the table because we were on those sofas.
I miss the sofas.
The sofas
I know.
are comfortable.
It was a lot more work to set it up though. So
yes, it's okay. Listen.
Miss those days.
We do. But we're here now. So tell us, let's go straight into it. Tell us about the song Zingue. First of all, why that song? And the arrangement and the producing process and all of those things. Because, actually, yes, so just tell us about it. I have a follow-up question afterwards.
Okay, so it kind of started, it's such a well trajectory in general. I first started off doing music festival in UTT. You know, I go to UTT. And well, Dr. Brown was like, do folk. And I was like, folk? What do you mean? And she was like, every time I pass and this and that. I honestly was super ignorant to the fact of these things. I knew it a little bit, so I knew about mangoes and these other stuff like that. But I didn't dive deep into the songs. So it started off with music festival. Went in there, came second place with every time I pass. Right after that, Northwest Laventil Cultural Movement contacted me for Best Village, and same thing, do folk. And I was like, wow, they seem to be finding me everywhere.
Love that.
Yeah, so I went in with same every time I passed, I won the prelims. After I won the prelims, I was like, all right, so you need to have a song for the finals. And I was like, a song for the finals? I can't go up and sing mangoes, that's weird. Right? So my producer and I, Mark Anthony, Emmy, we were looking for a specific style of song, and I love songs in minor, and I wanted something that gave the same energy as every time I pass. And he sent me this song randomly, and I was like, hey, Zingue, and I was like, ooh, I like this. I'm going to take this. And we're going to do this one. So during the process of Best Village, we were arranging the song, trying to figure out ways how to arrange the song. And they came up with that a really pretty arrangement where Mark Anthony was playing the guitar and everything like that. Came second in that. Afterwards, I posted the performance online. When I posted the performance online, everybody was like, oh my God, that high note, rah, rah, rah.
That's how I was as well.
I was like, should I record this? I just put up a post. I was like, you want me to record this? And they were like, yep. And I was like, all right, cool. And then it kind of went from there. And we produced the entire track. And we were like, all right, let's just record this. And one night randomly, I was extremely tired. That entire take is one take. I was exhausted. And we went into the studio, bust it out really quickly, one take, boom, then just released it. And then I put it up on TikTok and it legit blew up. I had no idea what was gonna happen. Yeah. Over like close to 40,000 views. I had no idea what was gonna happen with this song, but boy oh boy, it has taken me places that I didn't intend to be taken. And I'm so thankful for it, because honestly, if it wasn't for Dr. Brown, none of that would have happened. Yeah.
Of course. And we obviously we had her on the show, the late Dr. Leah Brown, and she spoke about, we were talking about leadership qualities and just looking at qualities in a person. And I remember she mentioned always looking for, it's not always what it seems on the surface of what people present. And when you see something in somebody that they don't recognize in themselves, it's important to let them know and bring it out. So she was able to, in listening to your voice, having lectured you, because APA choir and that sort of thing, she could hear this and it's like, you should do folk.
Yeah, she was such an integral part of it too. Like over the holiday, I was messaging her in relation to how to pronounce these words, because again, it's patois.
Yes.
I had to message my friends from Guadeloupe and Martinique as well to get the proper pronunciation because they have a similar type of patois to us as well.
Yes.
So it was kind of like a joint effort in the song to make it what it is currently. I did a lot of research into it. I needed to find out what the song meant so I could give the proper performance of it because it's part of our culture and I didn't want to like half it.
Right.
I wanted to give it the love it really did deserve. And while Mark Anthony loves, well, I mean, I keep calling him by his government name. Ellie loves folk music. He loves anything related to the culture as well. So he was the best person to bring that out.
Just for people who are confused, when you speak of Mark Anthony,
I mean, my
you don't
producer,
mean this
nah,
Mark
not
Anthony,
this
not
Mark
Mark
Anthony.
Anthony Peter, Mark Anthony pair, because
Anthony
apparently they look nothing alike, right? Short of sharing the same race, they look nothing alike. They don't sound alike. Right? I don't think they're the same height, you know, like just that they have the same first name. And they're in music. That's it. And apparently people mistake them for each other. This is like the reverse to Hollywood where you look alike. But no, just the first name alone is enough. So for our audience is not confused, you keep referring to Mark Anthony in the third person while Mark Anthony is technically right here.
It's not me. It's not me. It's not me. Though there's a funny story, just really quickly. Both of us attended a workshop. This was years ago. And they printed his certificate, but they didn't print mine, thinking that we were Pierre, Peter. One's English, one is French. He has a hyphen. I don't. But anyway.
I mean, you can't split in hairs now if you have to go to a hyphen, right?
But listen, but no, he's a great musician.
I mean, I want to ask, because it was for Best Village, did you do this sort of background, the instrumentation behind it and the arrangement, it wasn't exactly the same for the Best Village performance, no?
No, it wasn't exactly the same. Same mood and energy guitars, but we had drums instead.
Right, so it made the instrumentation a bit more traditional sounding.
Yeah.
As opposed to this, which is more, I thought, jazz sounding, which I was like, oh, this is an interesting mix because obviously I knew enough to know the lyrics weren't traditional jazz lyrics.
Exactly. But no, yeah, because I am more of a R&B-esque style artist, we wanted to fuse the elements together. So I go as R&B fusion, so I can do whatever I want, basically. Nobody can tell me what to do, you know? So for Best Village, we kept it very traditional, had the drums, they lovely performance. That was one of my best performances ever. And I don't really say those things about myself in terms of like most amazing performance, but because I don't know what it is with folk music or specifically with patois music. I don't know if it's because my ancestors coming up from the ground and pushing me up and making sure that my roots get like from the head down. But I felt so intense in that moment. I walked on stage. I felt like I was forgetting lyrics. I did not, and then I just felt like I just walked back off. I had no idea what happened in the setting there. Every time I perform that song, I tend to lose myself.
Which is funny because you're so confident that it was good, and yet you can't remember it.
Yeah,
but
I watched it back. I knew it was amazing.
Because I want to ask, like, I guess you might not be able to answer this, but compared to how the recording was, because I didn't see the Best Village performance. So compared to how the studio recording was, which I believe is the vocals on the video, which one do you feel is better? And there's a reason why I asked that, but which one do you feel better about?
I love both of them, but I really loved that performance. That was an amazing performance, because it feels different when you're doing stuff live as opposed to in a studio. Like I said, I was exhausted that night when we were recording it. So surprised it came out the way it did.
Because the reason why I say that is, if she feels better about the live performance than the studio recording, despite the fact that you're like, I felt so exhausted. It's like, I did not hear no exhaustion in the high notes.
Yeah, because
right?
I'm a boss, like,
I didn't hear no. In fact, I mean, it wasn't necessarily at the high notes. So it's like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? You know, to some extent, you expect a singer to be able to have a few tricks. Yeah. But just the way how it was, it wasn't shaky. It was stable. It seemed relatively effortless. You know, the pitch was smooth, like it wasn't wavering, like, you know, if that's tired voice, and of course that that actually happens more often than not. Sick, tired, you know, and then you just do this take, and that take becomes the take that's going to define a career. And who knows, maybe if you try to record it with sleep, it might actually be harder. Who knows?
Oh my God. But no, and speaking of tricks, I saw the Best Village when I saw that clip. And on that she growled on that high note. And I was like, oh,
that was
yes.
like, it just felt different.
Spirit of the ancestors, yes.
Growing up, the roots was rooted in
Correct,
me at that point.
right.
My Ras rooted and just
According to Dr. Mayaj, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. So for people who may not know, because at folk always seems to be this thing, folk music is always this thing that, this elusive thing, like if you happen to be educated in it, great for you, but it's not always this accessible as we'd like it to be in terms of the information, the music, the knowledge, that sort of thing. A lot of the music is done by rote, and as we know, when things are done by rote over years, adjustments, interpretations happen, and it's not always recorded.
Some things are forgotten.
Some things are forgotten. You said you had to figure out what the song meant. So for those who don't know, so first of all, it's sort of like a French Creole patois type of thing. What does it mean?
So in itself, the English part of it has nothing to do with the patois part of it. It does not connect in any specific way unless you want to make sense of it. But it's basically children without mothers are sad, children with mothers are happy. That's basically it. So when they say Monday morning I went to the chapel, saw the devil again in the Bible, it's like, what does that even have to do with this song? Yeah, but it could make sense in a sense.
Could it be that it had a meaning that was not necessarily explicit in the lyrics, but it's just one of those things where we'll just never know because
choruses.
Yeah, but the thing with Zinge in particular, it has several different versions. There's a full patois version of Zinge that has something to do with actual slavery and all this kind of stuff like that. It goes deeper than what it is, and as time progresses with like music or things that people don't understand because it's a lost language, we just tend to kind of dumb it down a little bit to actually keep it there, to have a level of preservation in it. And that was kind of the point of why we did it as well too, because we understood the importance of having preservation for our cultural music and for keeping it alive, or to have somebody to look it up at the end of the day and be like, oh, this is an updated version of this song. I'd have to try to research something going straight back, you know. I even have the lyrics printed out. I have it spelled out, I have the pronunciation, I have, you know, Dr. Brown singing it too in my head. So yeah, I have a recording of her singing it. I'm never getting rid of that recording, and I'll just keep it. But yeah, just having that level of preservation, but it goes really way back. Like it has that song there, and it's actually on Spotify. If you type up Zinge, you would see some
much older version.
Way older version, than Le Petit. Way older, because I got the
chorale. Because that's the version that I know. Le Petit chorale. But okay, so on that note though, in terms of preservation, what you're doing and what other, as you said, other artists have done in terms of this sort of modern style, and what you're doing with this R&B fusion, this adds to the preservation. What more do you think we can do as a nation to preserve these things? Because like I said, the culture has always been this sort of elusive thing. Like I know there are children who are in secondary school that don't know what Papa Boy is and Duens and all of those things. So and we can't always, I'm saying this as a teacher, we can't always rely on everything to be taught in school because there are varying factors. One, you have a curriculum to complete. Sometimes it's not always on the curriculum. Two, the subject is not always taught. And a lot of that has to do with like administrative things, teachers not available, that sort of thing. Because I know there's a school who has not been teaching social studies because no one has applied for that thing. And it's a well-known school. But so what can we do as tertiary level educated musicians, as cultural people? What can we do to continue to preserve these things?
I think personally, I would always say teach it in schools. Cause I know you're saying not to.
You can, but it's just the factors don't always line up.
Yeah, I think we need better leadership when it comes to those kind of things, and more understanding to what it would be for the culture. Because like, we don't really record a lot of things or take documentations of a lot of things. So a lot of our older Calypsonians are being forgotten. Everything is being thrown out because we're not actually giving that space for them to be able to be remembered, basically. There is no set of records of anybody. Like there's a Calypso museum or a Soca museum down on Charlotte Street, but I know a lot of people don't know of it. You know, like these things are not heavily advertised, or these things are not like shown that this is part of our culture. I personally feel like Best Village is like the best place where the children could kind of learn these things. Instead of making it like a full-on competition every year, it could also have an aspect of learning. Yeah, and make like a museum for Best Village in itself, you know. It has those small tips and stuff around or whatever like that. But I think like if you really have somebody who could get in charge of it and give it the love that it deserves, then people would start to appreciate it more, because we have a lot of culture here.
We do. Do you think how these things are run has an impact in...
Yes.
She knows where I'm going. Yes. How these things are run has an impact with the eyes and the audience that it attracts.
Yeah.
Because if a certain organization tends to have this sort of laissez-faire way of operating, then it won't attract the people who are serious about actually documenting these things.
Yeah, I feel like this is a big political question.
Well, I have another follow-up to make it even more political, but go ahead.
Fine. I think what happens is that people who really do love the culture are not the ones in charge. I think they just put a lot of people there who could get the job done, as opposed to people who love what they do. Yeah.
Is it that they can get the job done, or is it that they like to be in charge of something?
They like to be in charge of something, so they don't really understand certain things. Like going back to like probably some teachers in reality, a lot of them may not know how to deal with this far off what we're talking about, like special need kids and this kind of stuff like that. They don't have the proper training, they just want to get a paycheck, you know, and they don't really understand that teaching, you have to love to teach. Want to teach.
There was a teacher once that said, I don't like children. I'm like, why are you teaching?
Yeah, then why are you teaching? You have to love what you do.
There's another saying, those who can't teach.
And that is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
I can.
It's not supposed to be that way. It's not supposed to be that way. Right? But at some point society kind of went that way. But I have to take it in another direction, because I will actually say, one, I think secondary school music should include this.
I think so.
Right? And not in a light way, in a heavy way. And I think primary school, maybe to some extent, like it should also be included in history. The primary school level of history, of course, is not for examinations, and it could be introduced from there. The reason why I say that is this is French Creole patois, right? This is not African traditions from the ancestral land. And why I point that out is that means that this is technically Caribbean history. This is the history of our country. Calypso is not an Afro-Trinidadian thing or Trinbagonian thing. It's no, and the reason why is it should be taught to everybody.
It should be.
Right?
It's
right? And the thing is, to some extent, a lot of the other cultural things we have are stuff that was brought from, but this was created here. And it's kind of a shame that, and then it might die because we don't have enough effort to chronicle it, to celebrate it, to keep it relevant, right? Meanwhile, we could always import the culture of where we came from, because they're doing their job with their cultures, wherever, in India, in China, in Africa, whatever. But this was indigenous to a people here, and told of the stories of the history here. So that's why I think it probably is not just in music, but also in history. Right? Primary into secondary.
I totally agree. I think some schools in like more Maraval area, because it's more in like Paraman, there are people who actually teach it up on that side.
Because a lot of them still speak patois.
Like they don't teach it widely spread, and that's the problem.
But just one more question before you wrap. Now that folk is part of the repertoire, we have this R&B fusion thing happening. We have an amazing producer, Mark Anthony Pierre, M.A. Where do we see, do you see the career going a particular way, or are you open to whatever happens and just do your best at it?
I'm letting the ancestors lead with this one. I plan to create a full folk EP coming next, and I've approached some of the heavy hitter people who is in embedded with the culture. So like Tricanal, for example, is one of those people that I'll be collabing with soon. I'm actually performing at their Black Box event again Friday because they wanted me to come out again because I performed the first Friday. So yeah, I plan to keep the folk alive always because I've said that I want to always give a contribution to my country.
Of course.
And not just do R&B and run away and not come back. I feel like I should have something that stamps me for Trinidad, you know. I need to make sure that Trinidad remembers that we speak different languages. People are very ignorant.
Yes, and people who think that Venezuelan migrants are just a new thing. I won't be here if it wasn't for a few Venezuelan migrants, okay? So let's just keep that in mind. But
You're Spanish?
I have Spanish in my family, yes.
Oh, look at that.
But Liz, I want to thank you so much. I hope you had fun. It was fantastic. I wish you all of the best. You always have our support. Ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago, that has been Breakthrough. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, co-host Sean Michael Small. See you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
WESN